Hello, fellow classmates. Today I'm going to be talking to you about what I've learned in psychology this week, which is how to become a stronger person and a better student. But before I start, let me introduce myself. My name is Lindsay Light, and I am a sophomore currently attending the LeTourneau University. Now that I've talked a little bit about myself, let me stop chatting and let's begin. The first thing that psychology tells us will help us become better people is simply by managing your time for rest. Now, I don't know about you, but this is something really hard for me, especially when I try to cram in time to study and things like that for school. But it tells us that if we do manage our time for rest, it makes us happier, more alert, productive, and energized. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty great. Psychology tells us that we can also be better people if we just make time to exercise. Now, this one hits me hard because I am the worst at exercise. But with exercise, it increases your health and energy, and it can also be a remedy for depression and anxiety. Sounds pretty good to me. Another thing that psychology tells us to work on as people in order to become better is to set long-term goals with daily aims. Now, this doesn't just happen automatically, it takes time. As the book states, in order to try to get a goal accomplished, one needs to work at it. And this could take a month in order to get it in your routine, such as exercise. Let's say you're like me and you're a couch potato. The only way that I can probably get this in my routine in order to exercise is by trying to put it in my schedule every day, and then eventually it'll just come natural to me. Psychology also tells us to have a growth mindset. Now, what does this mean? This just means that we need to always focus on continually improving. There's always room for improvement. Even if you think you're the best at something, you can always be better. And that's what psychology tells us, is to not stop trying to think that we're good enough, but to instead keep pushing forward and become better with whatever we're doing. We can also prioritize relationships. According to psychology, it's important to have relationships. We're social animals. We need people to talk to. And by talking to people, we become happier and healthier, especially with supporting relationships. Now that I've rambled on about what psychology has told me this week on how I can become a better person, I feel like one of the main things that I learned this week is how to be a good student, especially when it comes to studying. And three key things that you need to, not you, sorry, I'm just saying that any student needs to work on with studying is to learn to think critically, process class information actively, and overlearn. Now, what do I mean by learn to think critically? Well, what this has meant is every day thinking about what people say or trying to not make assumptions, but instead spot other people's assumptions and their values and try to understand them more and just think deeply more than just ABC. Try to figure out the future, like D or something like that. Like, try to understand more than what is in front of you, and this will help you when you're studying because instead of simply just reading the words, you'll try to understand it more deeply, and with this, it'll become more in your memory. Another thing that makes us better students is the process of class information actively. Now, what this means is that instead of going to class and getting on your phone or not paying attention, you listen for main ideas. You write them down. You jot down all the ideas, even if they don't make sense to you, just to get in your head. And don't be afraid to ask questions. I know I've had teachers that I'm afraid to ask anything to because I'm afraid they might judge or get on to me for it. But honestly, it's better to ask a question that you have than not, because in the future, that question could be on the test and you may still not have the answer to it. And like I said before, take notes. This is very crucial to being successful as a student, especially when it comes to studying. And the third and final aspect of how to study as a student is to overlearn. Now, what I mean by this is that instead of going through your notes once or reading the chapter once or a few concepts once or two times, you should go through it many times, multiple times, as many times as possible. Even if you feel confident the first time, it never hurts to study more. Now, this can actually be a good thing because sometimes we as humans can be overconfident. What I mean by that is maybe you read a book or part of your chapter and you feel like, you know what, I already know this, I got this, it's in the bag. And then when you take the test, you are confused because you're like, I thought I knew it, but I totally forgot everything. It's not in my memory. I just knew it for that second. And that has to do with overconfidence. I know I deal with this all the time where I think that I'm ready for a test and I don't study as hard as I should have. And when I take the test, it shows. It shows in my grade that I was not prepared. And I'm not saying that confidence is a bad thing, and I know psychology doesn't think confidence is a bad thing, but overconfidence is because it can affect your grade and make you think you're ready for something when you're not. Well, this is just one of the many aspects of psychology that I've learned this week, and I hope that you were interested or maybe a little intrigued by what I had to say and that I wasn't boring or taking too much of your time. But I hope you all have a great rest of the week and can't wait to hear what you all have to say. Bye.